This is a tricky situation, isn't it, given the circumstances that we're facing? Why is it that you think that the solution that the government has come up with isn't the fairest way of doing it?
Well, first of all, my congratulations to those youngsters who've got the grades they wanted and deserved, and commiserations to those who haven't, and particular commiserations to those who were led to believe that the grade that they were given by their teachers was the one that they were going to get, and then open up an envelope and found that a C grade has been degraded to a D. Their chances of going to university are therefore that much reduced. So my commiserations to them. My concern is that these youngsters have been let down. They've been let down by a system of internal assessment where we know things can go badly wrong. And it's really important that we, or teachers and schools, really get together with their students and explain what's happened. To be told that the reason that a grade has been downgraded is because of a computer algorithm based on the previous performance of the school. In other words, other students' performance have affected your result, is not going to wash with these students and parents and families. So schools have got a big job to explain this to them. And I think they've been badly let down, our youngsters, by inadequate and incompetent head teachers who've got their internal assessment systems badly wrong. So it's not just the moderation exercise by Ofqual. I think the assessment systems of schools also need to be looked at, because head teachers, in estimating these grades, have got it badly wrong with a significant number of students. They shouldn't be left off the hook. And thirdly, I think quite honestly, they've been let down by government, who've had 6 months to prepare for this, since we've known internal assessments were going to be taken and the estimates of teachers were going to be taken instead of formal examinations. Let down by government to prepare for this. To say at the last moment to youngsters a mock examination result is going to be counted or could be counted is quite honestly ridiculous at the 11th hour for youngsters to know this, when they know that the mock results aren't really an accurate guide. Some schools don't even let their youngsters sit a mock examination. They're taken before Christmas, sometimes after Christmas. Results of the mock examinations are sometimes depressed to give youngsters a wake-up call so that they do better, as most do in their summer examinations.
So what do you think the answer should have been then? What should have happened in order to get to the grades?
Pardon?
What should have happened in that case in order to get to a fair assessment of the grades? Because if you're pointing to the fact there's difficulties with the teaching predictions, there's difficulties taking the mock grades, there's difficulties with the computer assessments, how do we work out what grades these children deserve?
As I said at the beginning of this, we've had 6 months to prepare for this. Ofqual and the government should have said, look, we need to make sure that the predictions made by the schools are accurate ones. And Ofqual should have demanded many more resources, many more people to go into schools and say, look, you've made these submissions. On the surface of it, they look wrong. They don't compare well with previous predictions. They don't compare well with previous results. We're going to examine this before they're published. So don't give these youngsters the estimated grades until we check this one out. And I think Ofqual and the government should have prepared for this much more effectively than they have done.
Sean, let's bring you in. So according to Sir Michael, pupils have been let down by pretty much everyone and everything. Let's just deal with the internal systems that he talks about, the teacher assessments. Do they work?
Well, I mean, I think this row started because the original model was that teachers would predict the grades that they thought their students would have got if they had sat the exams this summer. And that was supposed to be the basis for, the way the grades were going to be awarded this year. But when the grades came in from the teachers, the exam regulator, Ofqual, looked at them and said, well, look, these are 12% higher than they were last year, and we're going to largely discard them. Not only did they make that decision, they made that decision public. And that is really when this huge row started to really break open. And I think that was just the most disastrous decision, because if you say to, publicly, well, we don't trust teachers' judgments on their children, what kind of signal are you sending to children, first of all? Oh, well, the government doesn't trust my teacher's judgment on what I'm able to do in an exam. And what kind of signal are you sending to the teaching unions, who are already very distrustful of this government? So I kind of think, given the model that they set up in the first place, they should have stuck with it. They shouldn't have undone it. All right, grades would have been much higher this year. Maybe they could have been moderated down a little bit, but to do what they've done and publicly make this into a row is really, I think, it's unacceptable.
Sean,
because
Sean, what are you saying? Sean, are you saying that the 12% increase is accurate? And if it's not, I mean, surely the grades need to be downgraded. And I'm saying that because there will be pupils who sat their A-levels last year, and there will be pupils who will sit their A-levels in future years. And they will be treated unfairly if this year do particularly well. 12% is massive.
What is accurate about this year's assessment system? Almost nothing. It's now going to be based on kids' mock exams, that you're going to be able to appeal based on your mock exams. Lots of schools, mock exams are not done under exam conditions. Often children don't do them. They don't prepare for them. What's fair about that? This is not a fair system this year. And I mean, one of the problems that we have is that this government is absolutely determined to keep results the same year in, year out, that there's not going to be a big increase from year to year, because this government doesn't want to see it. It doesn't want what it calls grade inflation. So one of the problems that we're going to have this year is that if you're in a poorly performing school, if you're a really brilliant student, and I've been talking to some of them, they've got offers for 3 A's from Oxford or Cambridge or medical school. They have to get those grades to get into those universities and those medical schools. They are brilliant students in poorly performing schools, and their results are going to be downgraded by this statistical model. Is that fair? No, it's not.
Well, Damien Hines, let's come to you on this now. I mean, the clear message here is that the government have let A-level students down this year. They had 6 months to prepare an effective system for making this work, and yet it seems that they were scrabbling, and there's confusion now with this announcement at the last minute about what the way forward is going to be. Hasn't it caused more anxiety for pupils as a consequence?
Well, nobody wanted to be in this position. It would have been much, much better if these young people had been able to sit exams as normal, obviously. But for all the clear reasons, that just hasn't been possible this year. This is a big day. A-level results day and other qualifications coming out today, GCSE results day next week. These are big, big days in young people's lives, a culmination of all they've learned, all they've learned how to do at school. And it's really important they are, they're given a fair grade, a fair assessment. I think what the government has tried to do, considering there is no perfect way of doing that, if you haven't got the exams, I think government has tried its very best to make sure it is fair, and that it doesn't actually fall into some of the traps that Sean there was just talking about. I think it's also really important to say that this year, through this process, the number of young people who are going to get the top grades is going up. It's not going down. So when people talk about results being downgraded, we must bear that in mind. There are going to be more young people getting those top grades. There's a huge number of opportunities available for those that want to go on to higher education, go to universities. More opportunities actually now than ever before. And for most young people today's going to be a good day. Now, every results day, there's a lot of joy, and sadly there are also tears because things go well for some and not so well for others. But as I say, there are so many opportunities. Even if you miss the offer that you have from a university is going to be understanding this year, and you may still be able to get into that university. And even if you can't, then through what's called the clearing process, that there are other opportunities available. So I do encourage everyone getting their results to their families to be positive about it and to think about all those opportunities that are there. And for all of us, in universities and employers and families and everybody, to get behind these young people as they face the next step in their future.
Damien Hines, so we've heard from Sir Michael Wilshaw, Sian Griffiths, they're damning of what's happened, looking at the papers, the Telegraph, boosting exam grades would harm generation COVID for life. The Mail, I mean, the papers really lay into the government. You dunces, exam grades in chaos, teachers in despair, appeals set for meltdown. And what's the Education Secretary got to say to students getting results today? Sorry. So you're a former Education Secretary. Is Gavin Williamson doing a good job here?
Yes, I think Gavin and Nick Gibb and the other ministers at the DfE are dealing with. I mean, we've used this phrase so many times over the last few months: unprecedented circumstances. We would much rather, everybody I think would much rather, these young people are able to do exams in the normal way, but that isn't possible. So then you've got to say, what's the next best way of doing it? And obviously it's not perfect, and it doesn't help to just say, well, there's this imperfection or that. You have to say what other system would be better. And actually, I think a system which centres on teachers' understanding of their students, and they know their students best, it centres on that, but then adjusts it to make it, fairly applied across the country between different schools, and then for there to be the safeguards, the safety nets, and appeals process, and the ultimate fallback of being able to sit the exam in the autumn. I think that is as good an approach, the best approach that we can have in these circumstances. As I say, the number of young people getting the top grades is going to go up. It's going to go up somewhat, and there are many opportunities out there.